The story begins from a dark room where the protagonist tells us about his environment, that he is living in a room which have an old and creepy wall, wooden furniture that's about to break, and bugs occasionally flying in from outside through the ventilator. I envy those insects. After killing the bug, he licks it and says it's bitter. Then he thinks that I've spent my entire life in this basement. Someday, when I escape from this suffocating place, I'll be able to use this self-introduction that I'm writing right now. Normally, one would start their self-introduction with a name. But because I was never called by my name, I don't know it. However, I should have one. That mom must have given me, though I was separated from my mom shortly after my birth. I can tell from the picture of my mom holding me as a baby that she must have loved me. While he is seeing his mom's picture, suddenly a creepy man from behind says that she's dead. Your mom, that is. After that, he angrily turns around and asks him, what do you mean? Then the creepy man replies, she died shortly after your birth by jumping off a bridge. After listening to him, he gets more angry and thinks that this man is my father. At the same time, he's the deranged bastard who locked me in here, so I wouldn't escape. The long corridor of the basement, and the doors with locks. All the keys are within my dad's grasp. After that, his dad laughs and tells him, don't worry. I will never send you outside. Haven't I told you? The reason why your mother chose to die by jumping off. She was afraid. The very world she lived in, this earth, she knew that an apocalypse was coming. That's the reason why I'm not sending you outside, is because I love you. I can't watch my own son commit suicide. After listening to all that, he angrily says, you're lying. She chose to die because she was afraid of the apocalypse. Don't talk about my mom like that. Do you think I'd believe you? You've locked me in here with lies that the apocalypse is coming. After listening to him, his father says it's up to you whether you choose to believe me or not. But this self-introduction you wrote will never see the light of day. While watching his father burning his notebook, he shouts at him to stop him, but his father doesn't stop, and after burning the notebook, he throws it in the dustbins. Then, while watching his notebook fully burning, he tells his father that someone like you doesn't have the right to be called a dad. After listening to him, his father says, oh my, you shouldn't say something like that. I'm doing this all for you, as you can see. Now then, follow me. It's time. Then, while following his father, he thinks same hour, every day, the corridor that we always pass by. Of course, in here, there are no sounds of other life forms. My dad and I are the only inhabitants of this vast basement. The same routine starts even today. The same lectures and the same training. There's only one thing that allows me to overcome this boring daily life of mine. In the brief free time that's granted in the daily routine, I'm able to take books from the basement library and read them. Though there are many books in the library, the ones I like the most are the ones that describe the outside world. I wonder how the sunlight written in those books would feel. It's probably much warmer compared to the underground lights. I want to experience a peaceful daily life. And I want to see the beautiful scenery. I want to talk to people too. Perhaps I could be friends with them. But most of all, what I need to do immediately after I escape is, while he is thinking all that, suddenly his father comes there and takes the book from him. After taking the book from him, his father tells him that I've definitely told you that books are only allowed in your free time. Then he looks at the book and says this is a book about the surface. How pathetic. And asks him, do you still have a lingering attachment to the outside? After that, his father tells him that I've told you this before, you can't ever go up outside. When the apocalypse comes, the world will be filled with screaming and blood, and only ashes will remain in the end. It seems you still haven't realized that this basement is the only way for you to survive. After listening to him, he thinks again, it's that lie again. All that about the apocalypse coming or whatever. Because of that absurd reason, he's locked me in here for the entirety of my life, and continue to torment me through physical abuse. I will escape this prison no matter what. But now isn't the time yet. I need to wait for the moment when he drops his guard, and he becomes defenseless. Meanwhile, later in the training room, while he was doing push-ups, his father asks him, are you tired from just that? And tells him that you won't be able to survive the apocalypse at this rate. You've only done 10 push-ups. Until now. After that, suddenly he falls down because of the heavy load that he was carrying on his back while doing the push-ups. After that, his father moves his hand forward to lift him up. While looking at this, he asks him, "Why are you helping me?" After which his father pulls him up so fast that he falls backwards towards the wall. Then his father tells him that if someone reaches out their hand towards you, never trust them. You should be wary of humans the most, especially in times of the apocalypse. That is why I've trained you and taught you combat techniques. When you inevitably encounter other humans, you must be strong enough to survive even with just your bare hands. Then his father suddenly notices that he is not listening to him because he got faint because of falling on the wall while exercising. After that, his father says, "How weak. To think you'd be out cold from just that." Then suddenly he opens his eyes, and while seeing his father leaving, he thinks carelessness. After that, he suddenly picks up a sharp wall tile. And while running towards his father, he thinks the moment I've been waiting for. When my dad drops his guard entirely. After that, suddenly his father turns around with a very creepy face and dodges his move. And with his full power, he kicks him in the face that this time he actually faints. After that, later, from the sound of the water droplets, he suddenly wakes up and finds himself in his room. Then his father comes there and says, "You're finally awake," and tells him that was a good attempt. Your attack, that is. But didn't I tell you already? If it's not with your bare hands, then all this training means nothing. Therefore, your penalty for using a weapon is you're going to have to train twice as much. Get some rest for now. Tomorrow is going to be a tough day. After that, his father leaves, and he thinks I know something my father doesn't. When he turns the light off, all the electricity in the room turns off for a moment, and all the noise disappears. In that moment, when I focus on my listening, I can hear things I couldn't before. Things from far away. The sound of wheels turning, of birds chirping, and even the noise of a bustling city. From this, I found two truths. But in actuality, it's daytime above ground. The other truth is that Earth is peaceful. My father says that the end is coming. But it's all a lie to keep me locked up underground. And then I'm going to find my mother whenever I ask father about her. He always says that she's dead. But now I know he only tells lies. I think there's a hidden meaning in what he says. She's actually alive. One day, I'm going to escape from here, and I'm going to find her no matter what. Meanwhile, when his father is walking in the basement's corridor, suddenly a phone call comes to him. After that, he picks it up and says, "What is it?" "I told you not to contact me unless it was an emergency." After that, he says, "All right, let him live." Then he suddenly throws his phone and starts crying. Meanwhile, later, he opened his eyes and found himself tied with the ropes. After that, he asks his father, "What are you doing?" and tells him that untie me right now. After that, he notices something and thinks he's not listening. Fine, then I'll slowly break it myself. It's working. It's slowly ripping apart. After looking him trying to break the rope, his father tells him to stop. Then he tells him that you said today's training will be twice as difficult, and asks him, "You can't even remember what you told me." Then his father replies that plans have changed, and tells him that we won't be doing anything today. Not just today, but every day from now on. You won't be able to do anything other than sit in that chair. After listening to him, he asks him, "What are you talking about?" and says, "You said you're going to train me to survive the apocalypse. If you keep up tied up, I won't be able to..." While he was saying all that, suddenly his father replies, "Training is over now." After listening to him, he gets shocked and thinks what's gotten into him all of a sudden. I can't do anything if I'm tied up like this. I won't have a chance of seeing my mom. After that, while seeing him trying to break the rope, his father asks him, "What are you doing?" Then, while using his full strength, he again tries to break the rope. After that, his father comes close to him and punches him. Then his father says, "Didn't I tell you not to move?" After that, he falls down and thinks, I don't know what got into me back then. It would have made more sense to just pretend to agree with my father while looking for another opportunity. But in that moment, I didn't want to lose to him, even if it cost my life. My resentment towards my father, the one who locked me up and made me suffer, was growing stronger. I was curious to know what my father, the one who always looked down on me, would look like if I pummeled him. I thought my father would undoubtedly be angry. But something was different. What I saw in front of me were the tears that were always hiding behind the eyes of a deeply sad man. After thinking all that, he asks his father, "Why do you look that now?" Then suddenly his father punches him and he falls down, and the punch was so hard that he gets faint, and the last words of his father which he listened to was, "I hope you'll understand." After getting faint, he remembers something which his father said to him to always keep in mind. The most important rule. Rule number 1 of surviving the apocalypse. Never leave the basement. Because according to his father, there will be no safer place in the world than basement. It have thousands of defense mechanisms that can be maintained for over 126 years. With plenty of food and resources. Trying to leave this place where everything is prepared is like committing suicide by jumping into a fire pit. And he also remembers that his father told him once that the end finds us without any warning. So you must never leave the basement. Meanwhile, later he wakes up and sees that his dad is not there and thinks this has never happened before. The only time Dad had disappeared, this has never happened before, was when I would lay down to sleep. Dad's strange behavior started yesterday. Something is definitely going on. From the repetitive lifestyle in the basement to the current situation that I couldn't understand. I knew instinctively that something huge was about to begin, and listening to my hunch was a good idea. Then he suddenly notices that all the gates in the basement are opened. After looking at this, he starts running to escape the basement, and while escaping, he thinks a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Dad would have stopped me from escaping, but he's not here. After that, he suddenly stops at the exit point and sees the ladder. Then he starts climbing the ladder, and while climbing it, he thinks I found it. Please let that light beyond be sunlight. Then, after reaching the top, he finally escapes the basement, and he sees the sunlight for the first time in his life. It is a very joyful moment for him as he sees the outer world for the first time in his life. After that, he thinks I made it. I actually made it out. While he was standing in between the road, someone asks him from behind, "Kid, what do you think you're doing on the road?" Then he suddenly turns around, and after seeing an unknown person for the first time, he gets happy and starts saying it's an actual person. From looking at this type of weird behavior, the man gets shocked and thinks, "What's with this kid? Did he hit his head or something?" Meanwhile, suddenly, he remembers something and thinks now isn't the time for this. It's too early to let my guard down now that I've escaped. Dad might have noticed I'm missing and could come after me. For now, get as far away from the basement as possible. I have dreamed of this moment all my life. Escape from the basement. And, for the first time, be free. After that, he suddenly stops running and thinks, but why? Why did it open? Was it a malfunction in the safety system? No. The door wouldn't open because of a mere malfunction. Dad's a meticulous person who wouldn't make such a mistake. What if opening the basement door was Dad's intent? No, that's impossible. The one who made the rule to never leave the basement was Dad himself. After thinking all that, he looks around himself, he sees the people sitting together and drinking coffee. Students who are going towards school. An old man who is giving a balloon to a kid. And the kids who are running and playing with each other. After seeing all of this, he thinks that's right, everything Dad said was a lie. It's so peaceful as expected, an apocalypse approaching just doesn't make sense. When he is enjoying the joyful environment, he forgets his dad's words that the end finds us without any warning. Because the environment in which he is peaceful is going to change soon. After that, suddenly birds start moving here and there, and something starts coming towards Earth. While looking at that thing, people start talking with each other that it's getting closer. What in the world is that? I don't know. It's not the moon, right? What? The moon? What are you saying? Can you not see that? After that, suddenly everyone sees some very weird-looking creatures coming towards the Earth like a tornado. After looking at this, he remembers his father's words that never leave the basement. This is a basic rule that best guarantees survival. Then he thinks, however, there is an exception. If the basement's location is exposed to the enemy or a dangerous moment arrives. Rule 1-1 no longer applies. After reaching the road, the monster starts killing the people there, by which everyone gets afraid and starts running here and there to protect themselves. Then, while looking at this, he also gets shocked and thinks Dad had told me once. When the apocalypse comes, the world will be filled with blood and wails. Only heaps of ashes will be left behind. The apocalypse begun. After that, the monsters start destroying the whole city. And while lying down with no hope, he thinks my dad was right when he said the apocalypse was coming. That would mean my mom is dead. Was he right about that, too? Meanwhile, he sees a crowd of people start running towards him because of the monsters who are chasing them. After that, suddenly his dad comes there and pulls his hand to make him run. After looking at his father standing next to him, he gets shocked and asks him how did it. Then his father tells him to run. And don't stop moving your feet. While running, he looks behind and sees lots of people are dying because of all those monsters. Then suddenly his father stops and says there are monsters here, too. After that, he changes his route and tells him to follow him. Then they both change the route towards the broken bridge. While running towards the bridge, he sees many people who were caught by the monster. All this scenario was very horrible for him because he is facing the reality which his father was telling him for many years. Then while running, he tells his father that it'll catch up to us at this rate. After listening to him, his father replies, "Shut up and run. This is the only way to leave the city anyway." Meanwhile, after reaching the bridge, they see many vehicles which are destroyed by different types of alien species. After that, he turns around and says the monsters have followed us to the bridge. While he is running, suddenly one of the monsters who is already on the bridge grabs his leg tightly. And it was becoming painful for him. Then he thinks if I don't get it off me now, I will die. After that, suddenly his father hits the monster's tentacles with a big rock to help his son escape the monster's grip. Then he sees that a flock of monsters are coming towards them very fast. After looking at this, he thinks I have to hurry and run away, but the more I run, the more I realize the distance between the monsters and me is shrinking quickly. I can't get away from them. After that, his father tells him to go. Then he replies, I can't run away in this state. After listening to him, his father tells him that you'll be able to run away by yourself. Then he thinks that's right. Just run, you always ignored me anyway. After that, he sees that his father is giving him his hand to get up and asking him, why aren't you getting up? All this was very shocking for him because in his whole life, his father never helped him like that. After that again, his father asks him, I should be asking you, why aren't you running? Then he replies with anger, I told you. Even if I run, I can't make it far. After listening to him, his father tells him that you can survive, since I have a plan. This is unbelievable for him, and he asks his father what? There's no way you have a plan. After that, his father pulls his hand to get him up and tells him to run. Then he tells his father, wait, you didn't even tell me your plan. After that, his father tells him that there's something in my hand. There's no time. Escape using the bridge for now. After taking that price of paper from his dad, he starts running again. Meanwhile, running, he turns back and sees that the bridge is braked and his father sacrificed his life to save him. This whole scenario was becoming very shocking and horrible for him. Then he suddenly stops and thinks what happened. Why did the bridge could it be? That plan he was talking about, was it this? After understanding everything, he starts questioning his father who sacrificed his life for him. Why did you go to this extent? You tortured me all my life, so why now? I survived. But now what? What am I surviving for? Everything I had ever dreamed of when imagining life above ground disappeared. A peaceful life, the beauty of the ground above, and my only goal. I wanted to ask, why did you go this far to save me? What in the world am I supposed to live for in this hellish world? After that, suddenly, he looks at his hands in which he is holding a paper given by his dad. Then, after opening his hands, he sees something which makes him alive from inside. Meanwhile, a monster also comes over the bridge. And to protect himself from it, he starts running and jumps from the bridge. After falling from the bridge, he sees his leg and thinks I can't stand on my legs. My stamina is at rock bottom. There's no way I can run away from that monster. I'm probably going to die like this, but I believed I had nothing left. Why are you telling me something like this now? I want to live. I won't give up and I'll do whatever I can. To live and find Mom. That's not possible at all. After standing up on his feet, he remembers his dad's words, which were once the apocalypse comes. Humans will not be able to survive, since they won't have the power or knowledge to survive independently. even if they end up surviving. They won't be able to survive the dangers that repeat daily. After remembering all those things, he questions himself, if that happens, how am I supposed to survive? And just accept my death, while the monster is coming close to him to punch him. Suddenly, he listens to his dad's voice, which is asking him, have you forgotten everything I taught you? After listening to that, he suddenly remembers everything that his dad taught him. All the confidence, all the power, all the energy comes back to him. Now he is alive and strong to fight and defeat the monster. After that, he suddenly dodges the punch of the big monster, and also throws the monster to the other side. Then both of them stare at each other's eyes. After that again, his father's voice comes into his ears like a weapon that you're different from ordinary humans. The biggest difference between you and them is that you know how to survive. After that, he sees a sharp edge thing, and then he calls the monster towards him to attack. This time he was fearless like a lion who can fight and also kill his opponent for survival. After that, he listens to his father's imaginary voice that everything you've legended up till now, your training, experience, and survival knowledge, do everything you can and survive. The apocalypse. Now we can see how the entire city has been destroyed, and only a few people are alive who are wandering here and there. And then one of them says that 4 days have passed, but the police have not done anything yet. Then another person says that we are lucky we were able to hide here, and now that the food is over and we are feeling hungry, we will have to leave. She again said that you don't feel like saying anything either. If we keep waiting, then something might. And while she was speaking, someone called her from the side. Then she looked at him and asked him, what is it? He replied, why don't you just cut that out now? You are starting to make everyone uncomfortable. She answered, why? I'm not speaking loudly. Then he got a little upset by her words and placed his hand on his head with an annoying expression and said, that's not what I mean. Never mind, I ended up losing my mind at this point. After that, when he was moving forward, she called him and said, we've checked the area and couldn't find anything to eat. He said, we have to find food somehow if we want to stay here. Then she remained silent for a while, and suddenly she said that I did not check that place, and after hearing this, he was completely stunned. After that, she said, I didn't look over there, so I'll check again, so please don't give up. Then a slight smile was seen on his face. Seeing her expression, she thanked him, and that too with hesitation. Everyone else is exhausted from guarding themselves against the monsters, so nobody is willing to help. Then he said to that girl, you're the only one willing to help this much. You're a really great kid. She replied, not at all. I'm really not that great of a student. He said to her with full enthusiasm that, let's keep hoping and try to get everyone out of here alive. And after hearing all this, she could not move from there, nor could she say anything. Then they went out from there in search of food and saw 2 people sitting facing each other in a corner. Then she came to them and asked did they find any food in this area. Then both of them started looking at each other, and a food packet came out from behind and said, yeah, I found this between some piled debris earlier. She was happy to see this food and said, oh, really? Then both of us tore the packet and finished it all in the blink of an eye. Then she said angrily, what are you doing? We said we'd share whatever we find with everyone. She replied, those boring people made that decision. We never said we'd follow along, you know? But even yesterday, you guys ate from the shared food portion. Then he started reacting as if he didn't remember or hadn't eaten. After that, she said to them, if that's how it's going to be, I'm going to report you guys. Why don't you go ahead and try? Do you think we're just going to sit by and watch? He said to her. She immediately replied, it's pointless. You probably won't be able to catch me anyway. If there's one thing I'm good at, it's running away. As soon as he was moving forward, there was a loud shouting sound from behind, and they all suddenly became very scared. Then they started asking each other whether you had also heard that sound. Then the girl tells him that it came from far away, so I think we're okay. After listening to her, he breathes out and says, right, I got scared for nothing. Then he suddenly sees a little girl who is sitting in the corner. After looking at her, he smiles and asks her, weren't you so confident just a minute ago? And also tells her that you're nothing but a little wuss. I'd like to see you run with those shaky legs. Then she looks at the packet food, and while she is looking, suddenly someone says, oh, you're back. After that, the guy asks her, well, did you take a look over there? Then she replies yes. After that he asks her, and what about food? Then the little girl replies, I couldn't find anything. After listening to her, he says, I guess I'm not surprised. That's okay. The fact that we're still alive is what's most important. While he is talking with her, suddenly a monster comes there by breaking the wall. After that blast, everyone falls down, and the guy who she is talking with calls her for help. But she ignores him by saying sorry and runs away from there. While looking at her, leaving him aside, the guy asks her, why are you ignoring me? Then she replies, I told you, I'm not a good person. And on the other hand, while running, the girl asks the bald guy that where did that monster come from? Then the bald guy tells her to don't look back. Meanwhile, the bald guy looks at front and says there's one over there, too. Then, while seeing the little girl running towards the monster, she says it's okay. If she gets caught, we can use her as bait. We can run away to the side. After saying that, she thinks what an idiot. She's running towards the monster. Meanwhile, the monster throws its tentacles to grab the little girl. But she doesn't stop running, and she dodges so fast that the monster isn't able to grab her. After which, by jumping and sliding, she safely escapes. After watching her escape so easily, both of them get into shock, and the bald guy remembers that she told him that she is very good at running away. Then the bald guy says that no way she was telling the truth. Meanwhile, escaping the danger zone, the little girl hides behind the wall and sits down to take a rest. While sitting and taking long breaths, she thinks maybe they're gone now. After that, she sees our protagonist, who is sleeping next to her. While looking at him, she thinks, is he alive? Then she suddenly sees a monster who is also there, but it cannot see them because of its strange body, which doesn't have eyes, but has ears who can listen to them. So she stops where she is standing and also stops making noise so the monster couldn't hear her. After looking at the monster who is coming close to them, she suddenly pulls the boy and saves him from the monster. Then the monster leaves, and she takes a long breath and thinks, I think it's gone for real this time. After that, she sees that the boy opened his eyes. Then he suddenly jumps back to maintain a distance from her and asks her, who in the world are you? What were you trying to do to me? After listening to his questions, she gets nervous. Then he remembers his dad's words that you must never forget at any given moment to keep humans far away from you. After that, she asks him, what do you mean? And tells him that I just hid you in case the monster was able to find you. After listening to her, he again remembers his dad's lesson that don't ever trust humans. They want to use you and kill you. After remembering that, he thinks as long as dad's right. I won't be able to survive for long if I get close to a human, since they're cunning creatures. Then he asks her, how am I supposed to believe you? After that, he suddenly sits down holding his stomach. While looking at him, she asks him what happened to you. Then he replies, I'm hungry, and thinks that I last ate something 5 days ago in the basement. I've reached my limit. I've been taking long breaks to preserve whatever energy I had. To think I'd come into contact with a human now. Then she replies that I don't have anything to eat. After listening to her, he asks her, what are you talking about? I didn't even ask you. Then she replies, no, you just looked hungry. So, in case you asked, After that, he suddenly sees something and asks her, what's that? After listening to his question, she gets nervous and thinks, what should I tell him? Meanwhile, on the other side, he thinks, what in the world did that human drop? I don't know what it is, but I seem to be getting hungrier when I look at it. Could it be? After thinking that, he asks her, is that food? Then, with full of nervousness, she replies no. After listening to her, he says, maybe I was wrong. Then she weirdly laughs and says, what are you talking about? There's no way this is food. After that, she thinks he can't even recognize what's food. That boy's definitely an idiot. I could probably gloss over this. Meanwhile, after thinking deeply, he tells her that you are lying and asks her, you think I'd believe a human? After listening to him, she gets nervous cause she was really lying. Then he tells her, you'd be wrong to think I'd just believe you, since it's obvious that everything a human says is a lie. After listening to his weird talks, she holds her head and starts thinking that I was wrong. He's more of an idiot than I thought. Then, after looking at her, he thinks, judging by her reaction, it means that thing is food. I need that food. If she doesn't cooperate, I'll have no choice but to use force. While he is thinking all that, suddenly she takes out the food and says it's exactly half. I can't give you more. You look really hungry, so I'm especially giving it to you. After taking the half part from her, he thinks, why is she sharing? Doesn't she know it'd put her at a disadvantage if she decreased her rations? After that, she tells him, you have to pay me back fourfold, though. Okay. You can't forget. Then he replies, I got it. And while eating, he thinks fourfold, so she did have an ulterior motive. Humans truly are cunning creatures. After finishing his food, he starts leaving. Then, while looking at him leaving her alone, she asks him, where are you going? Then he replies, now that I've eaten, I'm moving, human. After that, she again asks him what? Where in the world are you going in this situation? And tells him that this is my neighborhood, so I know this place really well. I'm sure there's nowhere to go because it's surrounded by monsters. After that, he suddenly turns around and asks her, you know this place really well. Then she replies, yeah, since I grew up in this neighborhood. After that, he asks her, in that case, do you know where the subway is? Meanwhile, later, while going towards the subway, she thinks, how did I end up guiding this idiot? If I had known, I wouldn't have shared my bread with him. After that, she suddenly asks him, why the heck do you want to go to the subway? Then he replies, because it's safe there. After listening to him, she gets angry. Then he tells her that it's concentrated in goods we need for survival. There is a route for us to travel away from the eyes of the monsters. And more importantly, the subway makes it hard for the monsters to detect humans. After listening to him, she starts thinking he truly is a strange boy. He speaks as if he knows something, especially when he couldn't recognize the bread earlier. Meanwhile, they finally reach to their destination, and she tells him that I'm sure it was somewhere over here. After listening to her, he asks her, are you sure it's here? I'm sure I heard the subway is underground. I knew it, you were trying to deceive me, right? Then, after listening to his weird questions again, she angrily replies, obviously, this isn't the subway. I'm trying to find the entrance. Wait here for a bit. If I go here, I'm sure I'll find it. Then suddenly a person comes in front of them. After looking at that stranger, he says, I came here because I felt something, but I didn't realize there would be actual people talking here. Then he asks the old man, who are you? After listening to him, the old man replies, your words are coming off rude, young man. We'll leave the introduction for later. Follow me. While following him, she asks the old man, where are we going? Then the old man replies, weren't you looking for it? Meanwhile, after reaching the subway, he says it's right over here. While walking, they see many people over there who were hiding there to protect themselves from monsters. After that, the old man tells them that I can't forget about that moment. To think monsters would have appeared without a single warning. I knew there would be nowhere to run because monsters were everywhere, but fortunately, I found a place to hide when I followed the people running away. The fact that I found this place, it can only be because of luck. I'd sometimes go to the surface to look for medication, but there was no one I ran into except for you two. After listening to him, our hero thinks I was initially planning to plant a base in this subway station. But there are more humans here than I expected. I can see all types of humans. Powerless humans trapped in despair, and humans who show their wicked selves upon those humans, and a strange human I can't get a read on. The more humans there are, the more risk factors there are. Among them, there is not one who could put me in danger. I can instinctively tell who's dangerous, just like those monsters on the surface and my dad. But no one gives off a dangerous feeling among them. Maybe I should stay here for now, since none of them will be able to harm me, even if they end up being my enemy. After that, the old man asks them, how about we introduce ourselves, and tells them that my name is Hwang Bam. As you can see, I'm a doctor. I was searching for medication on the surface, and that's how I met you both. I wasn't able to get anything much. After listening to him, she says, then, I'll go first. My name is Haru. Then the doctor says, what a good name, and asks her, judging by your clothes, are you a student at virtual middle school? Then she replies, yes, that's right, and asks him that, do you know my school? After that, the doctor replies, of course. Our hospital was across the school, near the shopping mall. Then, after listening to him, she thinks, was there a hospital there? After that, the doctor looks at him and says, your clothes, I might have asked a stupid question. It seems you've gone through a lot. Anyway, what's your name? Then first he thinks about his name, but as we know, he doesn't have any name, so he replies, I don't have one. I've never had a name. After listening to him, the doctor feels strange and says you can tell me next time. I hope you tell me once you think we've gotten closer. After that, suddenly a guy comes there and says, "Sir, I think things have gotten worse." Then they see a guy who has a big wound on his stomach. After that, the wounded guy says, "You're here." Then, while seeing his wound, the doctor says it's gotten worse, like I expected. We temporarily stopped the blood last time, but it seems to be worsening much faster than we expected. If you don't get surgical treatment now, you'll be in danger because of the infection. We must do it now. I'll disinfect the wound. While looking at the doctor, our hero thinks a doctor. I've secretly seen one in a book without Dad knowing. A job that exists to treat humans for a price. After thinking all that, he suddenly asks him, in that case, now that the apocalypse happened, what are you receiving as the price to treat humans? After listening to his weird question, everyone gets shocked, and the doctor replies, do I have to receive such a thing? It's a doctor's job to treat those who are hurt. Don't worry, since I have rarely failed a surgery. After that, the wounded guy says, thank you, I'm saved, thanks to you. While looking at this, he thinks I don't understand. Why is he helping him? To help without anything in return. Are humans that stupid? Or do they actually do stuff like that for others? While the wounded guy is hugging the doctor, he finds out on his name badge that in actuality Hwang Bam is a veterinarian. After that, Hwang Bam says, all right, let's get started. It might hurt a little, but that can't be helped. After finding that he is not a human doctor, the wounded guy gets into fear and tells him that wait a minute, please undo this. Then Hwang Bam replies, I can't do that, since it could lead to bad news if you move during the surgery. After that, with full of fear, the wounded guy says, wait, you're a veterinarian, and asks him, can you actually perform surgery? Then Hwang Bam laughs and replies, of course, I can, since humans are technically animals. After listening to that, the wounded guy starts panicking with fear of surgery. Then Hwang Bam tells him, calm down, young man, it's dangerous if you jump around like that. Your condition will worsen. I need anesthetics. While listening to him, a girl tells him from behind that there's no way we'd have something like that. After that, Hwang says, oh, here it is, and hits the wounded guy with a brick. While looking at this, our protagonist thinks I thought wrong. Humans are dangerous. Meanwhile, later, he goes far from them to sit quietly, and while sitting, he thinks I made the right call to get out of there. There's no need for me to keep watch over that scene. What do I do now? The only thing I have is the picture father gave me. A photo taken during my childhood. And a note in the back of it that says, Mom's alive. It's over. I don't have enough clues to know how to find my mom. But whenever I look at this photo, I feel a sense of unease. That's because, in the background of the photo, there were unnatural, alien-like flowers. Even when I was in the basement, I thought it was strange, so I looked into flower books to learn more. But I couldn't find any information on the flowers in the picture. If that flower only grows in specific locations or environments, then I might be able to find out the location of where the picture was taken. In order to find that out, I have to first find someone who can identify the flower for me. This photo is the only clue I have. I have to make sure I don't lose it. I'll need to ask everyone if they recognize the flower. Meanwhile, on the other side, a girl tells a guy that boss, I gathered everyone. Then he replies, let's begin, and tells her that bring everyone over here. If they refuse, then use whatever method you want. After gathering at one place forcefully, people start asking each other why we are gathered here. Then a guy from the crowd asks the boss of the group, hey, why are you making us gather here? Are you allowed to manhandle us like this without any explanation? Are you listening to me? After that, he suddenly turns around, and from his eyes, the guy gets into fear. And while moving towards him, the boss of that group thinks I can look into the depths of the human mind. I can see what thoughts they're hiding inside. I can see it from their eyes. Fear, he hides it by acting tough on the exterior. But in front of me, it always reveals itself. After getting punched by the boss of that group, the guy falls back from him. Then he pulls him up, and while pulling him, he says, that's right. That's what I wanted to see. Show me more. Your true form deep within your soul. After that, suddenly his group member comes there and tells him that boss, it looks like some people aren't here. After listening to her, he asks her what are saying. Then she replies an older person, a boy, and a girl. And there was another injured person. After listening to her, he tells her that I'm sure I told you to gather everyone, and asks her so what happened. Then she replies that Zone was given to that thuggish guy. But he never listened and suddenly disappeared. After that, the boss says the thug, that scoundrel. We never could get that guy under control. Fine, I'll do it myself. After that, while going towards them, he tells her that I want to look at their faces when I find them. Then she asks him, boss, what should we do about this one? After that, he replies, tie him up and throw him outside. After listening to him, that guy gets into fear, and in panic, he says, you can't. I'll do whatever you ask. Meanwhile, on the other hand, our protagonist suddenly awakes and thinks, did I fall asleep? I couldn't get any good rest the past few days, because I had to guard myself against the monsters. After that, he suddenly sees something weird and thinks, where am I? I'm pressing down on my foot, but I can't get a sense of the ground. Is this place trying to swallow me up somehow? No, I might somehow be swallowed up already. While he is trying to escape, suddenly something starts grabbing him, and that thing fully covers him. After that, he suddenly wakes up and thinks a dream. But it felt so real. After that, he sees a group of people standing in front of him, after which he asks them, who are you guys? Then the boss of that group tells him that you've got 2 minutes. If you don't get to the center of the station within that time, you'll be expelled from this place. Then one of his members tells him that you better get going now. If you don't run, it might be too risky for you. After that, he stands up on his feet, and while looking at him, the boss of the group thinks I was curious to see who the ones hiding were. But maybe having expectations was pointless. After that, he asks the boss, so you're going to expel me? Then from his question, the boss gets into shock. Then he asks them, how will you expel me, without any fear in his eyes? After listening to him, the member of that group says, what? This crazy brat. Then the boss says, no, it's fun this way. After that, the boss tells him to look at his eyes, and says, show me the true form that's hiding behind your eyes. After that, one of the group members asks the boss, hey, what's going on, boss? And tells the protagonist that you're in trouble now. You should have just left when we gave you 2 minutes. After listening to him, he replies, 2 minutes, no 2 seconds, it's plenty of time to take you guys down. Then, after listening to his reply, the group member starts laughing and says, it's just as you said, boss, this guy's funny. Then he takes out his knife and asks him, so are those your last words? After that, his boss stops him. Meanwhile, our protagonist notices that his family photo is missing. After looking at him, that he is getting worried about the missing of his family photo, the group member shows the photo to him and asks him, oh, are you looking for this? Then he twists the photo and says, I wasn't expecting to find anything worthwhile after looking at you. All I found was this dumb photo. After listening to him, he tells him that if there's even a scratch on that photo, I'll kill you. Then, after looking at his fearless eyes, the boss of the group takes the photo from his group member and tells him that come any closer, and I'll rip this up. After that, he suddenly stops from attacking them, and the group member starts beating him. And while beating him, he asks him, where did all your confidence disappear to? That photo must be real important to you. While getting beaten from that punk, he thinks, shit, I was too careless. I can't believe I lost the photo while falling asleep. I knew humans were more dangerous than monsters. After that, the group member asks his boss, that boss, what should we do about this guy? We should definitely expel him, right? Then the boss replies no, and tells him that when I looked into his eyes just now, the inside of his soul is so deep that I couldn't see anything. We're going to keep watch over him. I'll leave this photo under your supervision. After listening to his boss, he asks him, we have to go that far for this guy. Then the boss tells him that's an order. After that, he replies, all right, boss. And thinks, now that you say it, when that kid was about to attack us, I did get a little scared. As long as I have this photo, that kid won't be able to move a muscle. After that, suddenly Haru comes there and asks them, hey, what are you doing? After that, the boss of that group replies, and there's the other one. Saved me the trouble of finding you. Then she asks him, you were looking for me? After that, the boss of the group tells his members to report at the center of the station. And while leaving, one of the group member tells him that I hope to see you again next time. I'll take good care of this for you. After that, Haru goes near to him and gives her hand to lift him up and asks him, "Are you okay?" Then he rudely refuses her help, which makes Haru angry, and she asks him, "Hey, what did I do?" "I was trying to wake you up." After listening to her, he replies, "I don't need your help." Move, human. Then she tells him that my name isn't human. I told you before, it's Haru. Get it right already. After that, he also angrily asks Haru, "Do I really have to remember something like that?" Meanwhile, later, Hwang Bam sees both of them are not talking to each other, so he asks Haru that did something happen between you and this gentleman. Then Haru replies, "Nope. I'm the idiot for trying to have a conversation with someone who doesn't know how to communicate in the first place. So something did happen." After listening to her, he thinks, why would I hold hands with a human of all things? And remembers his dad lesson that if someone reaches out their hand towards you, never trust them. Humans are your enemy. Meanwhile, later, while seeing the group member who have his family photo, he thinks that's the guy who has my photo. It'll be easy for us to take it back by force. Even if he were to respond to my attack by ripping the photo. If I just put it back together, it'd be good enough of a clue. However, I still don't want to ruin it. It's the only item that came out with me from the basement. There's no need for it to be ripped. I just need to wait for the moment he lets go of the photo. After that, the group leader says everyone's gathered now. So let's begin. You're going to be given two options. Follow me or don't follow me. If you choose to follow me, you won't have any reason to worry about being kicked out of here. Like that guy over there. This guy tried to cause chaos in our subway, which is the only shelter around. Therefore, I decided to expel him. If you choose to stand on this side. At best, I won't treat you as a rebel like that guy, who was trying to break the order. I won't make you follow me by force. But if you do choose to follow me, know this. My word is absolute. After listening to him, the crowd of people starts feeling worried and everyone starts talking about that. Then, while looking at this situation, Hwang Bam thinks those who are stronger rule over those who are weak. In a world where the law is obsolete. It's not too strange that things have turned out this way. You won't explicitly tell me to follow you. But it's still manipulative because if I don't, I'll end up like that guy who was just expelled. Choosing that side is the logical choice if I want to live longer. If you've already lived a long life, being unpredictable every now and then isn't so bad. If I join that side, I might not be able to help when a patient really needs it. So I'm going to stay on this side. While he is thinking all that, suddenly Haru says, "Even if I'm here alone." After listening to her, he gets into shock and asks her, "You're not going to join them, little one?" Then Haru replies, "No." After that, Hwang Bam tells her that hurry up and go on over there. If you think you're going to stay here, you're being foolish. After listening to him, Haru laughs and says, "But, sir, I don't think I'm the only one being a fool here." After listening to her, he again gets into shock, and he sees that no one is joining their group. "No, we can." After that, a girl got confused and said, "Why is no one including me? I didn't plan on staying here, damn it." Do you all get it now? We're screwed. Those guys are now going to watch for us. Our fate is to be captured and tortured. Then someone says from behind, "No, there's no way. It won't be that bad." Then the girl smiles after listening to that. There is another girl who is mentioning these things, and again, she said it won't get as bad as torture. Won't they either starve us to death or kick us out to be food for the monsters? The girl who is listening to her shouts angrily and says, "I knew it, we're screwed." A little girl came running and collided with the doctor. The doctor said to her that, "Kiddo, you can't run around." The man beside her says, "I'm sorry, elder. I should have held onto her properly." The doctor laughed and replied, "It's all right. She's at the age where she should run around. Kiddo, listen to your dad well." The little girl said something softly to him. The doctor replied, "I can't hear you very well." Again, she said the same thing, but this time she screamed angrily and said, "He is not my dad. My dad is somewhere else. He's probably looking for me with my mom." The man also replied, "To be honest, she's not my kid. We simply crossed paths while running away. So until we find her parents, I'm trying to play the part of her guardian." After that, two men were gossiping at the gate, and one of them came to Armik and said, "You can't come over here. The boss said so. Anyone who leaves this room will be severely punished, So don't think you're an exception just because you're young. But he didn't reply and kept silent because he was thinking about that bastard who took his mom's picture. After some time, we see the resource stuff or food items are there for distribution. Again, that girl complained that what? Why are we only getting this much? You can obviously tell there's a difference with those guys. He replied, boss rules. Either way, you guys are stuck in that room not doing anything anyways. Do you really need to eat a lot? Now we see a person who is lying down but wakes up after smelling some fragrance and thinks I smell something good. Is it his time? Now we see those two people who were distributing ration. They are talking to each other that ration are finally over. By the way, do you know that person? The other one replied, who? He said the one called Boss Left-Hand Man. Oh, that person looks dangerous. Then he replied, yeah, his nickname is Chicken Comb. He doesn't listen to the boss well and goes around alone. But I guess there's still a reason he's called the boss's left-hand man. He kills people ruthlessly with a smile, or so they say. Anyway, he's considered very vicious, so you can't bother him, not even by mistake. If you were to ever rub him the wrong way, well, it's said you're better off being eaten by a monster. Then all of a sudden that little girl comes running fast with her food and collides with the boss's left-hand man and her food gets scattered. After that he tells her, my god, little kid, it's dangerous to be running around here. Now my clothes are like this, follow me. After looking at him coming towards him with the little girl, two of the guys standing there start talking with each other that look over there. No way is the next victim that kid. Ruthless as expected to think he'd bother such a young kid. But why is he coming this way? After that the boss's left hand says, hey, you listen. Then he replies yes. After that he tells him that it's nothing much. Give this kid her rations. Then the guy says yes, but the rations are 1 per person. After listening to him he says then you can just give her mine. Then the guy gives the food to her and thinks, why is he giving his meal? I know. Is this the food torture that's only talked about? To bother a kid while giving his own meal. How vicious, yet persistent. After that suddenly the guy who was before with that little girl comes there and tells the girl to hurry and get behind him. And asks the boss's left hand that what exactly did this kid do wrong. After listening to his question, he angrily asks that guy, you have a problem with my actions. Then after that he takes the little girl with him and tells her that these despicable devils. Now let's go back quickly. And while looking at this, one of the girls asks Haru that doesn't it seem like there's more surveillance? Then Haru says, I know, right? On the other side, while sitting, our protagonist thinks, damn, it should I just leave to find that guy? After thinking all that he looks towards Haru. Then after remembering that moment when he refused her help, she turns around her head with anger. Meanwhile at night, when everyone is sleeping, suddenly a girl gets up and sees our protagonist sitting at the corner. Then she tries to touch him, but he stops her from doing that by grabbing her hand. After that she asks her, are you awake? Then he asks her, what are you doing? I knew it, were you planning on attacking me while I was asleep? After listening to him, she thinks, why is this kid so strong? And tells him that hurts. What are you saying? I just wanted to talk. Then he leaves her hand and asks her, do you just want to talk with me? After that she replies, what's wrong? You act like you've never had a conversation before. Then he says, what's it got to do with you whether I've had a conversation before or not? And tells her that just get to the point. Then she asks him, why are you always apart from other people? Are you a really shy person perhaps? After listening to her, he replies, you're talking nonsense. I have no reason to be close with the enemy. After that she asks him, what humans are your enemy? Then he replies, that's right. Every human is an enemy. And asks her, is there a reason why I should be close with people who may attack me when my back is turned? Then she replies, but I don't plan on hurting you, though. After that he tells her that I don't believe you. You could be lying. After that she looks towards Haru and says, yeah, well, I don't mind you being wary of me, but would you reconcile with that kid named Haru? Then he replies, reconcile. If you're talking about that blonde-haired human, I've never even fought with them before. After listening to him, she asks him, yeah. Then can you get along with her? Then he replies, that's another issue. They're still human. To me, that girl is no different to the humans outside this room. After that she says that kid might think others can't hear her, but she cries every night while holding her breath. There's probably something heartbreaking that she can't bring herself to say. Well, everyone in this basement probably is the same. But that's all there is to it. If you, who's the same age as her, get along with her, it could be better, no? After listening to her, he replies being sad is something only weak humans do. If you have time for that, it would be better to figure out another plan to survive. After listening to his strong words, she asks him, have you never been sad over losing someone important? Then he remembers his past memories of the bridge and angrily replies no, and there won't be a case in the future. After listening to him, she says not being sad because you don't have a special person that sounds lonely. If you die, I'll be sad for you. After listening to her, he looks towards her and says way to make a person feel bad. I'm never going to die. And I'm not going to care if you die. After that, she stands up and says, how cold, did I talk too much? I won't bother you anymore. Sweet dreams. After that, when she is gone, he thinks what a weird human. Let's get some sleep.
After that, he thinks it's been about 4 days since I came here. At first, I came here to find a place to rest. But because some human held my note hostage, I was unable to do anything to find my mom. Then suddenly the group members who hosted him came there and started disturbing him. After which he asks them, is this fun for you? Then the guy from that group replies, no. Why would it be fun? We don't want to do this either. This is punishment. Punishment for leaving the room as you pleased last time. After listening to him, he asks him, is that right? In that case, why don't you punish me yourself? And tells him to put away that note. Then while looking at his fearless eyes, that guy thinks this brat he's not even afraid of me. But rather, he's looking at the picture as if he's uninterested. After that, he asks him, are you looking down on me? Seeing that you're saying stuff like that means you haven't been punished enough? After listening to that guy, our protagonist thinks that humans are inherently weak. I think I finally understand what he meant now. However, it doesn't seem like only those kinds of humans exist. After that, a girl and the doctor ask him, are you all right? Then he sits down and replies, it's fine. This much is all right. After that, suddenly the same girl that he met last night comes to him and tells him, it's your lunch. I didn't know when you'd come back, so I got it for you. After that, he takes the lunch from her. Then she asks him, what were you just about to say? Then he replies, it was nothing. After that, while looking at her that she is coughing too much, he thinks I suddenly had a thought. But I don't plan on hurting you though. If you die, I'll be sad for you. Then maybe it might be okay to trust her a little. After that, she suddenly falls and faints. Then he asks her, hey, are you okay? Get a hold of yourself. Meanwhile, later, while looking at her, the doctor tells her that your symptoms don't look good. You need medicine. I have to go to the surface because we don't have that medication here. Then after listening to him, she replies, then it's fine. There's no reason for you to go to the surface for me. After that, he tells him that, stop talking. If we don't get that medicine now, your condition will worsen. Then while listening to him, he asks the doctor, how? If we don't get the medicine, how will she get worse? While the doctor is going to tell him something, suddenly the group members come there and tell the doctor that the boss is calling for you. Then while holding the family picture, the guy from that group thinks I don't understand the boss. Why do I have to hold this picture up in front of that little kid, when I can easily take care of him even without this picture? Then he tells the doctor again that he's got orders for you to treat the people who are injured over there. Hurry up. Then the doctor replies, I can't do that right now. After listening to him, that guy asks him, does that mean you're disobeying the boss's orders right now? Then the doctor replies, that's not what I meant. I shall treat the other patients once I treat this patient, since this patient needs treatment the most. After listening to them, she suddenly gets up and says, I'm okay, and asks the doctor, if you just let me know where the medicine is, I can go to the surface and find it myself. Then the doctor shockingly asks her, what are you saying? And tells her you won't be able to survive on the surface in that state. After listening to them, that guy says, so that's how it is. Then you should have said that sooner. After that, suddenly he stabs her with a knife and tells her I could have helped you if that was the case. At this moment, everyone gets shocked, and the person who is mostly shocked is him because he is feeling her from inside. While looking at her, he thinks I can feel it. Her life fading away. Why do humans die so easily? After that, suddenly she touches him and asks him why so serious, and tells him that I'm sure you said you wouldn't care. Then after saying that, she dies. After that, the guy who killed her says, "My hands got dirty." And while looking at her, the doctor angrily asks him, "How could your expression not change once? When you kill a person like this?" Monsters weren't only roaming around on the surface. After listening to him, he replies, "Hey, old man, you're being too harsh. This is no different than me saving you. If things were left like they were, you would have followed her to the surface. I couldn't lose our doctor just because he wanted to save a single dying human." After he asks him, "Aren't you supposed to be grateful instead?" Dying in this way is more peaceful than being eaten by monsters. While he was talking to him, suddenly he sees back and notices that he is standing alone in a trauma after her death. Then he asks him, "Are you finally feeling scared? You acted as if you were so tough." After that, suddenly he looks at him with his fearless and full of anger eyes, and tells him that you don't have the picture. After listening to him, he looks back and says, "Oh, I guess I dropped it when I grabbed the knife earlier," and asks him, "So what are you going to do about it? Are you gonna jump me or something?" Then he jumps on him and replies, "Yeah." After that, he punches hard on his face so that he falls far away from him. After that, he pulls him by grabbing his collar and takes out the knife which that guy was holding before, and by which he also killed that girl. Then suddenly he puts the knife on his neck, and while looking at his face, he thinks 2 weeks back. When I attacked him, this guy didn't even react. Shit, if I had known this guy was this weak, I would have just taken the notepaper from him. If I did that, then this would have never happened. Then he thinks whether he should kill him or not. And he listens to his father's voice, which is telling him to kill that guy. He also listens to his father telling him that shouldn't have mercy on your enemies who become defenseless and be sure to end it. While he is thinking all that, suddenly, the doctor tells him that, "Stop if you kill him. You can't undo it." Then he turns back and asks him, "I can't undo it? Are you worrying about this human right now?" Then the doctor replies, "No, I'm talking about your heart right now. Think about it carefully. Do you have to go as far as killing him?" After listening to his great advice, he looks at the knife in which his reflection is coming, and he looks at his face carefully. Then remembers the past moments of his life when he was asking his father, "Is there a real reason to kill them?" And also telling his father that, if I beat them up to the brink of death, they'll forget about attacking me. After listening to him, his father laughs and replies, "You won't be able to stay alive with a weak mindset like that." Then after saying that, his father asks him, if that's not the case, then are you afraid of killing humans? After which he replies to him, "Don't get ahead of yourself, since I'll never become like you." After remembering the past talks with his father, he thinks, if the apocalypse comes like you said, then I'll stay alive in my way. I won't become like you and go around killing everyone just because I don't like them. After thinking all that, he drops the knife from his hand. Meanwhile, looking at this, the doctor gets happy and tells him that you made the right decision. After listening to him, he says, "It's not because of what you said. It's just I feel like I'll become the same as him if I kill this guy." Then he thinks, and there's no particular reason to kill him. Why does it matter to me whether she lives or not? Even if she lived, she wouldn't have helped find Mom either. It doesn't matter to me. Then while looking at this, he doesn't have a knife in his hand. The guy from that group tries to attack him from behind. But he suddenly notices him and protects himself by using the guy whom he is holding as a guard. After that, he punches that guy too. Then he sees the last guy in that group, and he asks him, "What are you doing?" After which he shows his family picture to him and asks him, "This is a picture that's precious to you, right?" Then he also asks him, "So what?" After which he cleans the picture, and while giving that picture back, he replies, "Nothing. Just be careful with it." After that, the doctor says, "Now that I think about it, I don't see the child and the girl." Then a guy standing there tells him that they left for the bathroom together earlier. Maybe you can consider it a relief. that they weren't able to see this because of that. After that, one of the men standing there asks him, "Wait, if you were able to easily win against these guys, why didn't you do anything until now?" After that, he replies, "They held something of mine hostage." Then that man asks him, "You mean that piece of paper? Just how important is that to you?" After listening to him, he replies with a louder voice that it's important, which makes that man quiet with fear. Then he tells everyone, "Come to think of it, there is something I wanted to ask you." After which he shows his family picture to everyone, and while looking at it, a girl standing there says nothing comes to mind. I've also never seen a flower that looks like that before. Then the girl asks him, "Oh, where did you take this picture?" After which he replies, "I ask because I don't know." Then a guy standing there says, "It wouldn't be so difficult if we had internet access. But it seems it won't be easy just by looking at this picture at this moment." After that, the doctor asks him, "By the way, why do you want to know the location of this picture?" Then he replies, "Isn't it obvious? I'm going to go there." After which the doctor asks him, "While I did see how you fought just now, you are aware that the surface is swarming with monsters, right?" And tells him that even if you did find out the location, it will be hard for you to survive out there. Then he replies to him with full confidence that, "No, I can survive," which makes everyone shocked. After that, he didn't expect to find people who would recognize this at a glance anyway. Then suddenly the boss of that group comes there and says, "So this is what it's come to. I told that boy to hold on to that picture. Well, but he couldn't even follow such a simple order. Well, it doesn't matter. Now that it's come to this, I guess I'll use a more intuitive method." Meanwhile, above the basement on the surface, suddenly we see a monster who is digging down to go inside the basement. The boss's two people were talking to each other while he was eating, but that little girl came near him and said, "Why didn't you flush after going to the washroom?" The girl replied that the flush part was broken and I was not able to do that. Then a boy comes or says that it is already too late, you should go now. Then that little girl starts staring at him. Then the boy says to him, "Don't look at me like this because I am also doing this to survive here." After that, those people who were making food saw them, and he said, "Look, maybe they were fighting." Then suddenly something fell from above. Then he asked the other person, "What have you put on him? What is it?" He replied that he did not talk about anything and just shook it. Then all of a sudden rocks started falling from above, and when he looked above found that the roof was breaking and something was visible coming through it. Suddenly a monster appeared in that hole and attacked him. So if we move back to our main character, we see that the boss is standing face to face with him. And when he looks at the fallen man, he thinks, "I knew it. My discernment was right." After that, the boss thinks about the past, where he was immersed in. There were, at times, such characters as monstrous beings who deviated from the norm, although now actual monsters are roaming the surface. After that, the person behind the boss told him that, "Boss, to be careful. That kid is stronger than he looks." After hearing all this, the boss hit him first and said, "I don't need to be told I'm incompetent. What I need is him." Then the boss also said to him that, "You've got quite the rebellious eyes. I should let you know who's in charge. Maybe I'll be able to see it now, the true form within the depths of that boy." Then the boss tries to look within but finds nothing except the darkness. But after some time, the boss thought I was mistaken. It wasn't me looking through that boy, but rather the opposite. Suddenly the boss saw something that scared him a lot. Then he fell in front of his teammates. And he found that boy very dangerous and mysterious along with his glaring greenish eyes. And the boss thinks I almost got swallowed alive. After seeing this situation, everyone was amazed and confused about the boy. After that, a girl thinks, "Why is the boss like this in front of that kid?" Suddenly, everyone's attention goes towards the gate where a person is coming in a very bad condition, covered in blood, and asking for help. And he also said that he can't see. Then a girl asked where this blood came from, and one of boss's teammates said, "I didn't know, I just went to take a nap." Then according to his expression, the man suddenly felt pain in his head, and told them that I've been having a headache since earlier. Then he started coughing, and there was something strange on his head, and looking at it, they wondered if it was a monster. Then the man shouts and says, "What is this? There's something in my head, I won't come off." First, he remained completely calm. Then he started moving strangely, and seeing that all the people were scared, and suddenly his glasses broke. Right away, something like a snake came out of his eyes, which was a monster, and he went straight to his teammate and was going on a bus. But the boss caught him and said that it was a monster, and suddenly pulled and went close, also hit him in the face with so much anger that he went away and fell. Again the monster approached them fast, but the boss cut the monster into pieces with his axe. Suddenly the whole atmosphere became quiet, and the people standing behind them started thinking that he stopped moving. That means the boss killed that monster. But he thinks, where in the world did the monster come from? Apart from that, he also listens to some sound. Then a girl said happily that I thought I was about to die as soon as I saw that, but now I'm saved. Everyone is chanting that the boss saved us, and also that we believed in him. But both the boy and the boss were nervous, and knew that right now the trouble was not over yet, because they both could feel and listen to some sounds which were going to trouble or kill them. Suddenly a locker broke and a monster came out of it. It was quite dangerous, and at first he was lying peacefully, as if he was dead. But when he stood up, everyone got scared. Perhaps it was because they had spent so much time in the subway that everyone here had forgotten. They were trying to forget the terrible memories and the horrors they would have to face. Boss was ready to fight the monster, but everyone else started running away because of fear. Boss orders them to face the monster and fight. How long are you going to keep running? Do you plan to repeat everything all over again? The boss was motivating them by grabbing his axe. He said, "There's only one of them. It's different from before. We can beat them if we fight together." Perhaps it was because they had seen him easily kill a monster that had been for them the embodiment of horror. Or perhaps it was his words that moved them. Then his teammate said, "That's right, we can do it. We just saw the boss kill a monster, and we don't have anywhere else to go if we run away." After that they said, "He's right. Let's kill that monster on our own." Let's begin to face the monster. Monsters are no longer the object of our fears. It was the first time since the monsters appeared that they felt hope. Then she said to his boss that give us the order. But at this time, suddenly, something started happening to the boss, and blood started coming out from his nose. And after looking at this, his teammates get afraid and shocked. After that, a creepy creature came out of his mouth, which is a monster. Then they started thinking that even though the boss had killed him, how was he still alive? After looking at that scenario, she also thinks, why is it coming back to life? They won't die. That means we can never beat the monsters. Suddenly more monsters came in, and they all got scared. And one by one all those monsters cut the humans, ate some, and tore some. Redness was visible everywhere, which frightened the people. There was only crying and screaming. Everyone was in pain. But we see the boy, our main character, standing in front of the gate without fear. Some people were standing behind him, and one of them said that we were wrong, and it was only a matter of time before the monsters made us his victims. And there is a person who remembers that his daughter is not with him, so he immediately takes the decision that he has to go out and search for her. Then as soon as he goes, the doctor catches him from behind and asks, "Where are you doing? If you want to live, stay here." Then he says that my daughter is outside. I have to find her at all costs. So the doctor tries to make him understand further that monsters have already come to the entrance, and sorry to say, but who knows, your daughter may also have become their food. After hearing all this, he was completely broken and shattered from within. He was feeling very bad for his daughter, that he could not even save her. Then the boy, our main character, was going out, but everyone tried to stop him, and asked where he was going, why he was going, but he did not give any reply, but he went further and more. It is a mystery to us, and also to these people, as to where he is going, and why he is going.
Meanwhile, three of them see a guy killed by a monster. After looking at this, because getting scared, the little girl starts crying. Then Haru tells her, "You'll get us caught." And she thinks, "I'm sorry, but I hid here in the midst of the chaos. But I'll die as soon as I'm caught." Meanwhile, when she is leaving, suddenly the little girl grabs her t-shirt sleeves and stops her. After that, Haru turns around and sees that she is fully feared. Then Haru tells her that stick right next to me. After that, the guy standing there asks them, "What are you guys going to do?" Then Haru replies, "We have to run away." After which he asks her, "But where to?" and tells Haru that there's nowhere to run anymore. Then Haru replies, "It doesn't matter where, as long as we can live." After that the guy tells her there are monsters on the surface. And now they've even taken over the one safe haven we had. And asks her, but you still think you can survive? After which Haru replies with confidence, even so, I can't just sit around waiting for my death. I will survive no matter what. No matter what happens. After listening to her and looking at her confidence, he tells her that your gaze. I see you have a reason to survive. Then all of a sudden a monster comes there and he tells them to run. After which he holds the monster to stop it and tells them that get a hold of yourself and run. There's no more reason for me to live but you. Meanwhile he suddenly turns around to see them, but he finds out they have run so fast that they disappear. After that he says, wait, that was so fast, you should have waited to listen to me. Then all of a sudden the monster attacks on him to kill him. Meanwhile on the other part of the basement a guy hits the monster on his back with the axe. And a girl stabs the monster with a knife to kill it. But she sees that the monster's skin is so hard that the knife is not going inside either. This makes the girl so shocked that she throws the knife away and says, we can't win. After that suddenly our protagonist comes there with a cold entry. And while looking at him everyone says, what's with him? Where's he going? Meanwhile the monster is killing everyone in the basement brutally. And even the monster killed the group boss too. After that he gets him ready for attacking the monster, and while looking at him the girl thinks, could it be he's going to fight it? He's just asking to be killed. Even the boss couldn't kill the monster. After that the monster tries to grab him with its tentacles, but he holds his tentacles and starts running to the other direction. Then suddenly he jumps to dodge the monster's attack with his acrobatic moves. After that he traps the monster with his own tentacles, and moves towards the group boss body whom the monster made the host. Then he suddenly takes out something from the group boss's body. And while looking at this everyone gets shocked and the doctor says he stopped the monster. After that the girl says, but nothing's changed. The boss stopped the monster, too. Then all of a sudden two monsters come there and one of the monsters runs towards him to attack him. After that he kicks it and runs towards the other one. The monster tries to grab him but he suddenly jumps acrobatically to dodge it. Then from the back of the monster he takes out the axe which was stabbed on his back before by that guy. While he is taking out the axe from the monster's back, suddenly the monster uses its elbow to hit him on his face. But he gets successful in taking out the axe, and while looking at this everyone gets shocked that he is still alive after taking the monster elbow hit straight to his face. And while looking at him attacking the monster the doctor says, how did he survive that? Overwhelming strength and a constantly regenerating body. It was an act of suicide to fight such monsters. However, in front of their very eyes one bow stood up and fought it alone. After which while fighting the monster he remembers his father's words that there is no being in this world that doesn't die. For any being, there must be the source from which its life began, go after that. If it's you, you'll know where their lives begin, and how to destroy their seeds. After remembering all that he suddenly hits the axe on the monster's heart and takes it out of the monster's body. And put it down on the floor. After looking at this everyone gets shocked and the doctor says he killed the monster. Meanwhile on the other hand while running from the monster, suddenly Haru sees another monster standing next to her. And because of the shock she suddenly falls down. After that she looks at the monster and something mysterious happens there, but she successfully escapes the monster and reaches where everyone is standing. Then they see her and the doctor says, you're alive. It doesn't look like you're hurt anywhere. It's truly a relief. After that while noticing something the guy asks her, wait a minute. What about the child that went with you? Where is she? Then all of a sudden they heard the little girl screaming from behind and asking Haru where she went. Meanwhile looking at the monster standing behind her the guy tells the little girl to stop screaming. But she doesn't stop and the monster goes to attack her from behind. Then suddenly Chicken Cone comes there to protect the girl and safely take her back to the people. Then while looking at the monster he screams and says, and tells the monster, what you looking at? I'm gonna rip your eye out. After that he sees the monster moving backward. While looking at this he says, could it be? I scared it off. Then Wang Bom tells him that unfortunately, that doesn't seem to be the case. And asks him, didn't you see while you were coming this way? Then Wang Bom tells him that the reason why we're safe, it's the second one. Meanwhile on the other side one of the monsters tries to punch our protagonist, but he dodges him and thinks in that time span, another two appeared. If there were only a few monsters attacking me, the plan would have been to deal with all of them and restore this place to safety. However, the number of animals I'm up against right now is 3. Unlike the 2 monsters from earlier, these guys don't have a blind spot. If my attack is even slightly off the mark, it could be fatal. More importantly, more monsters might appear. If I take the state of my stamina into consideration, my chances of survival will greatly decrease if I prolong this fight. Should I just run away? It's not that hard to just run away instead of fighting. I probably will be able to find a base to hide from them relatively easily. But if I'm not here, the humans in the room probably won't live for very long. But what do they have to do with me? There's no reason for me to fight for them, since humans are the enemy. While thinking, all of a sudden he remembers that girl who died in front of him. And suddenly he thinks, that's right. I let my guard down. While he is thinking all that, the monster stabs on his back with his big claws. Meanwhile looking at this that he is down, the monster starts moving towards him to kill him. But suddenly Chicken Comb comes there and says, I got the gist. And asks him, so you know a way to kill these monsters? Then how can I help? After listening to Chicken Comb, the other guy also tells him, I'll help out, too. Then after knowing that they wanted to help him in fighting with monsters, he gets shocked and asks them, you're gonna help? Humans are helping me. And then he starts thinking that but humans are the enemy. There's absolutely no reason for them to help me. After that Chicken Comb tells him that we are helping you, of course, to survive. Then the other guy tells him that he's right. If those monsters get you, then we're all as good as dead. After saying that, he extends his hand to show him that we are with you in fighting with monsters. But he ignores them and thinks, I can't trust humans, since they will do anything in order to survive. But as long as we have the common goal to survive, then there's no reason for them to betray me. After thinking that, he tells them to distract the monsters. Meanwhile they see a monster running towards them to attack them. At this moment, while looking at the monster, Chicken Comb is going crazy to fight with them. Meanwhile fighting with the monster, our protagonist thinks, I have my fair share of injuries. I must finish this as quickly as possible. On the other hand, while hitting the monster with a baseball bat, Chicken Comb starts teasing the monster by saying, what you looking at? I'm your opponent. Meanwhile running towards the most dangerous monster among all in the basement, he thinks first off that one. Then all of a sudden the monster throws a deadly laser beam towards him, but he luckily dodges it. And after that he sees the axe which came in contact with the beam while dodging is fully melted. After that, without taking any risk, he again starts running towards the monster by dodging the beams that monster is throwing on him constantly. He somehow manages to attack the monster on his head by using the axe, but suddenly the monster protects himself by throwing its tentacles on him. Then he dodges him with his acrobatic moves and finally manages to get near the monster to finally kill him. But all of a sudden he notices that he missed it and the monster is now throwing the beam on him again, and it will be his death soon. But suddenly that guy who told him to help him earlier comes in front of the beam by holding something as a shield and protects him from the monster's deadly laser beam. And the laser beam is so powerful that it even melts the thing which that guy was using as a shield earlier. Then after looking at this, he gets very angry and runs towards the monster to kill him. On the other hand, while looking at this, Wang Bom says, I want to help, but I'll only become a burden if I get involved. Then after listening to him, the girl standing near him says, me, too. Meanwhile he destroys the monster's powerful form by hitting him on its weak point. After that the guy came in front of him to protect him asks, are you hurt anywhere? Meanwhile looking at the strange ball-like thing which is actually a monster's weak form. Chicken Comb excitingly says so that's what a monster looks like when you kill it. And asks him how did you do that? And also tells him that I don't want to keep running away anymore. Then he replies they have a weakness. You just have to target that. After that Chicken Comb asks him how do you find their weaknesses? Then he replies you can see it if you focus. After that Chicken Comb excitedly says it's their heads. Then he tells him no, it's not. Then while looking at the monsters who are coming towards them to kill them the guy wearing glasses says I don't really know what you're talking about, but if you're the only one WHO can find their weaknesses, then there's only one thing we can do. We'll attack them so that you can target their weak spots. After that suddenly Chicken Comb starts running towards the monster and says no. I'm gonna kill monsters too. Then while looking at his craziness the guy wearing glasses says oh dear, he has no fear. Meanwhile running towards the monsters to attack them he thinks but fighting the monsters has gotten much easier. To think I'd get any help from humans. I wouldn't have even dreamed of this back then. Humans are too weak. They're different from me. They might actually die if I don't finish this fight now. There's only one left. If only I can get rid of it. Hang on now that I think about it. I'm pretty sure there was another monster. Meanwhile on the other hand Haru sees someone lying dead and finds out there is another monster in the basement too. After that the monster comes closer to Haru to kill her. While the monster is going to attack her suddenly he protects Haru by hitting the monster on its weak point. After that he suddenly faints and everyone sees that he has big scars on his back. Then while lying down he touches the strange circular thing which comes out from the monster after hitting the monster on its weak point. After that he closes his eyes and gets fully faint and listens to people talking that hey, get a hold of yourself. His injuries are too severe. He needs immediate treatment. I'll help too. Then can you lift here? Later he finally wakes up from his sleep and finds out Haru is sleeping near him. Then after looking at him, Wong Bom says oh, it's a miracle. To think you'd get up already. And asks him are you feeling alright? And also tells him that you've been sleeping like a dead man since the past 2 days. After that he looks at himself and thinks this bandage did that doctor do this. Then suddenly he tears up the bandages and after looking at this Wong Bom gets fully shocked. He finds out that the scars on his back are fully recovered. Then he asks him what everything is healed. And starts thinking it's only been 2 days. I've never seen a miraculous recovery like this before. After that while seeing him awake the guy wearing glasses says you're awake. And tells him that I was worried that you wouldn't wake up. Thank goodness. I can finally thank you. Thank you so much for saving us. After listening to him he tells him that forget the thank yous. Since I fought for myself, too. After that he says now that I think about it. The human WHO I fought with is he dead? Then suddenly Chicken Comb wakes up and says don't go killing off someone who's alive and well. I may not look like it, but I'm confident in my strength. After suddenly while he is saying something he coughs out the blood from his mouth. Then while looking at him that guy tells him I should thank you as well. And asks him but why did you help us? After listening to him Chicken Comb says what do you mean, why? I just did it because I wanted to. Then he asks him but aren't you a bad person? After listening to him he asks him why do you have that impression of me? Then he replies that's because those gangster-like people were following you. After that he tells him I don't have anything to do with those guys. They were the ones WHO thought I was that guy's subordinate. I'm telling you I don't follow anyone. Then the guy with glasses tells him but no matter how I look at it you look dangerous. After that he says don't judge a book by its cover. It's just my style, alright. Then the guy asks him by style, do you mean that chicken comb? After that he replies it's not a chicken comb. It's a mohawk. After that Haru asks him you're awake already. Are you okay? Then after listening to her he asks her more importantly why were you sleeping here? You don't look like you're injured like the other humans. After she angrily replies this is what I get for worrying about you. I'm here because I wanted to be, alright. Then while looking at them Wang Bomb tells him that oh, young boy. Now that I think about it, you should thank Haru. She stayed by your side and helped me treat you. After listening to him with embarrassment she tries to hide her feelings and says that's not true. There's no way I'd do that for some guy who can't even remember my name. I was just here to help the old Gramps out. After that while noticing her chicken comb tells her oh. I remember you. I happened to see you that day, and you were incredible. I've never seen someone run away that quickly in my entire life. I really thought you were possessed by a ghost or something by the way you kept dodging that monster. Then while looking at her that she is ignoring him Chicken Comb says that was a compliment, so what's wrong with her reaction? Meanwhile looking at her eyes he remembers the words of that lady who died in front of him. Then after remembering all that stuff he calls her by her name and asks her that was your name right, Haru. After that while leaving she replies yeah. Meanwhile later while observing the people a boy says the number of people who survived that commotion are the 12 people standing here. Over the past 2 days, we have identified a total of 43 recovered bodies. Then while listening to him Wang Bomb says that would mean our numbers have reduced by 80%. How terrible. After that the girl standing near him says according to my calculations, 78% is more accurate. After that the boy tells them that, we discovered something strange while we were gathering the bodies. The bodies were almost a colorless gray. It was as if I was looking at a mummy that died a long time ago. After that one of the girls says other people saw this too, right? There was a monster that stuck to the corpses and sucked something out of them. Don't you think it's because of that? What in the world are those monsters? There was talk that they were created by the government as experiments. After that the guy with glasses says I've heard that as well, but I don't know if it's true. But I heard that they suddenly appeared from the sky. Then while listening to him another one says what? From the sky. Then would that make them aliens or something? After that an old guy says wait. More importantly, there's something else we have to address, that boy's identity. What we saw him do and how he knew the method to kill the monsters. Then after listening to him he tells them that for all my life, I've been receiving training to prepare for the apocalypse. While looking at the picture on his hand everyone asks him so this picture is the only thing you brought here, right? After that the girl tells him that to be honest that picture alone isn't enough for me to trust you. That's something you could have easily forged. And the fact that you said you were trained in a basement your entire life. And the fact that you said you knew the apocalypse was coming. After listening to her he thinks I knew it she's not going to believe me. Then suddenly she says but I'm sure there's no one here who won't believe what you said. After seeing what you've done. Then suddenly a girl tries to punch him but he dodges her. After looking at this shockingly she says you actually dodged it. I'll believe you. I'll believe that you were trained. I get it. I'm sorry. After that Wang Bomb says I also believe this boy. When I was treating him, his body was covered with all sorts of scars. For someone of that age no, those were an unthinkable amount of scars, even for an ordinary person. I can't even imagine how much pain he went through. After listening to him Haru asks how did he get so many scars. Then he asks her are you talking about these scars? And replies I slowly got more scars as I tried to repeatedly escape the basement. Then she asks him it must have been hard on you. After that he replies no these scars are proof that I fought. I don't think of them as difficult memories. After that suddenly the old guy says I don't believe you. And asks him you knew that the apocalypse was coming. Then why didn't you let other people know? They could have prepared for it if you'd told them. Then after listening to him he thinks Dad said that humans are the enemy. So he probably didn't consider cooperating with them. I don't trust them either. But they helped me. I don't know why Dad taught me that humans are evil. But at the very least, I don't think these people are that bad. After that the girl tells him whatever the case you're important to us. Since you're the only one here. WHO can defeat the monsters. Then Chicken Comb says it'd be nice if you could feel where their weak points are. Then I'd whack and go SHKK. After that the guy with glasses says perhaps you'll be able to gain important information about the monsters if you find your mother. After that the old guy says, but what are we gonna do with that information? We don't even know if we'll be alive tomorrow. And then he tells them that fortunately for US, the entrance to this place is covered by the destroyed building above US. Therefore, this place remained relatively undetectable to the monsters. You'd have to go deep within the broken building where there's barely any light and past all the debris blocking your path to finally find the entrance. But that's all. As I said, we were fortunate. It's not unlikely for the monsters to come in and attack US again like this time. But still, don't be so pessimistic, at least we still have enough rations. Meanwhile later, while looking at the ration storage is fully destroyed by the monsters, everyone gets shocked, especially Chicken Comb. Then he asks the guy, this is the ration storage, right? After that he replies, I guess it isn't anymore. Meanwhile later Wong Bomb tells them, now that it's come to this we need people to go up to the surface to get food. And asks everyone, do we have any volunteers here? After listening to him, Chicken Comb excitedly says, count me in. Staying underground for over a week is so suffocating. Then the other guy tells him that your wounds still haven't healed, though. I'll go instead. Suddenly he feels the pain in his body and Wong Bomb tells him the same goes for you. It's too early to take off your bandages. You should go back and rest. Perhaps someone WHO isn't hurt should go. Then he looks at a girl and she acts freakingly and nods her head by saying no. After that the old guy tells him that going up to the surface is a suicide mission. Only idiots would go. Then Wong Bomb finds out everyone is saying no to that. After that with sadness he says, this is bad. We only have enough rations to last US about a week. Meanwhile stretching his arms he tells Wong that I'll go. Then Wong tells him that oh, I'd be absolutely reassured if you go. After that he also tells him that well, I might as well. Since I have to go to the surface and meet other people to find out more about the picture. And I might be able to find a better base than here. After saying all that he jumps on the elevator and says, but more importantly I really don't like basements. Then suddenly someone says from behind, we'll go with you, oh you. Then he sees that two kids are telling this to him. After that the girl tells him, I'm sorry for not helping you back then, I was thinking about doing something. But my feet wouldn't budge because I was so scared. But I've gained courage seeing you. We're not too different in age, but seeing you face the monsters. You're truly incredible. After listening to her the boys also tell him that that's right. And even if you're trained you still put your life on the line to protect US. I would have just run if it were me. After that Wong Bomb asks anyone else is going to the surface. Then suddenly he sees Haru is also going with them. And while looking at her he thinks, I knew it, it's too hard for her. Then two of them ask him, are you ready? After that he also asks them what. Then the boy asks him, are you really going to go like that? And the girl tells him, you should probably wear something. After the other girl gives the clothes to him and tells him, I stitched you some clothes while you were sleeping. Then after listening to her he asks her, you stitched them? After that she replies, YAA, you should know that it's an honor. I might not look like it, but I'm a first-rate designer. There was a time when people used to line up to wear my clothes. Although that doesn't matter anymore, since my clients disappeared. After looking at the clothes he remembers that his father never gave him new clothes. He used to make him wear the same type of dirty clothes each day, which was kept in the wardrobe in huge amounts. Then while looking at the new clothes he tells her that wearing new clothes was one of the things I've always wanted to do if I ever got to the surface. Thank you, human. After listening to him she smiles and tells him that to think your first piece of clothing is a work of mine. You won't ever be satisfied with the clothes you'll wear for the rest of your life. Then suddenly Haru says, wait, I have something to ask you. But he suddenly undresses himself in front of everyone without any embarrassment. and asks her what. Meanwhile, seeing him fully naked, Haru feels ashamed and starts screaming. Then she tries to slap him but he dodges it and asks her what the hell. Why are you attacking me all of a sudden? Meanwhile when she is screaming and moving suddenly the guy wearing glasses sees a scary on Haru's head. After that while looking at Haru that she suddenly kneeled down and hid in her face. He asks her why aren't you standing? Then she angrily replies just hurry up and put on your clothes. After listening to her he replies "Okao" and thinks I truly don't understand humans. Then he wears the clothes which that dress designer girl has given him. Meanwhile the guy wearing glasses tells the doctor that come to think of it, I wonder how the monsters knew to attack this place. Maybe it's just a coincidence. On the other hand the short-haired girl looks down at something and suddenly picks up a lighter from there and tells everyone that oh. I found a lighter, it's mine. Then he tells that guy who was talking to the doctor about how the monster came here that it could have been because of that. Monsters are attracted to fire. After listening to him everyone gets shocked and that guy says to think they had such a characteristic. Then he tells everyone that so don't even light it up by accident. Otherwise, monsters will come again like last time. After that because of fear she gives the lighter to Haru and tells her I'll give this to you as a present. Meanwhile that guy who saw the scar on her head before tells her that I remember now. And asks her you're her, right? The track athlete from Gusong Middle School. After listening to him she also asks him how did you know that? Then he replies I knew it. I knew I'd seen you somewhere. And tells her that I recognized you from that scar. It always looked really cool when you were running. After listening to him she replies no with a sad feeling. And tells him that it's not cool. It is a reminder that I'm a coward. After that she starts telling her past story where her dad tells her that we'll be rooting for your middle school debut. And her mom tells her hang in there. You know mom loves you, right? And her brother also cheers her and tells her to hang in. After that her parents see that the students have started bullying her from the first day. Then her father tells her mom that I wonder if she'll fit in well at school. She used to be such an energetic child but ever since that incident, she's become so scared that it's hard for her to go about her daily life. She was caught by a man who had a knife in his hand. And we weren't able to do anything because we were scared that he might do something to Haru. But she was brave enough to bite that man's hand to protect herself. And while running away from him, she suddenly falls down. And that guy hits her forehead with his knife. And that scar in her head was because of something that happened in the past. After that she wakes up screaming in the hospital room. Then her father hugs her and tells her it's okay, Haru. We caught the guy, you can calm down. Meanwhile many days later in the school a girl tells her you're right. That was really scary too. What about you? And another girl asks him what are you scared of the most? Then she replies I'm scared of dying the most. After listening to her the girls tells her that we were talking about scary movies. Meanwhile later in the playground the coach tells the students that the next set of runners are to stand at the starting line. Then while standing at start line she thinks ever since I got the scar, it felt as if something dangerous was always lurking around me. And whenever that feeling got strong, everything in front of me went white. That's why I didn't like running. Because whenever I ran, it would remind me of when I was running away. That's right, I'm a coward. After that the race ends and the coach tells everyone that it's a new record. Then everyone starts cheering her by saying that was awesome. She's so fast. And asking her what did you say your name was? Were you ever a track athlete? After that her coach tells her you've got potential as a runner. If you start training with me from today on, you can become the best track athlete. After listening to him she thinks but if I run, that memory. Then she suddenly changes her mind and tells the coach Okao I'll do it. Meanwhile 2 years later the coach tells a guy that the new athlete WHO started track about 2 years ago and broke a bunch of records. After listening to him that guy asks him you're saying that the girl with the scar is here? Then the coach replies that's what I'm telling you, sir. After that he enters the room and sees Haru and says there you are the athlete of the hour. Can we take pictures with you? After which she replies yes. Of course. Then while taking the picture with her that guy tells Haru that this is quite the honor, I'm a fan of yours. After which she replied thank you. Then he puts his hand on her shoulder and tells her that it won't show up well on the camera otherwise, so come closer. After which she gets the glimpses of her bad memories. And she pushes him away from her. Meanwhile later while smoking he tells the coach that made me feel bad. I didn't do anything wrong either. After which he tells him that she's a little bit of a strange one, so please be understanding. She's a coward. WHO runs away from the littlest thing. And to think that the famous newbie's got something wrong with her. Meanwhile later in Haru's home while using the phone her father says, "Why isn't my internet working?" Then her mom replies to him that, "I told you to stop using your phone while we eat." After that he asks Haru, "Did everything go well with that reporter yesterday?" And he also tells her that, "I had no idea you had such talent for running when you were younger. And now, we can watch our daughter appear on TV." After listening to him she replies, "It's because of that incident. The reason I became good at running, I mean, when I run, I always think of that incident, and it makes me run faster. So ironically, that's how I started running. I thought that if I kept running, I'd get used to it and get rid of my cowardly personality. But I'm still a coward." After that when she is getting ready for school her father tells her from behind that you don't have to fix it. It's okay to be a coward. After listening to him she thinks you're wrong. It's not okay at all. I'm bound to be treated like I'm strange because of my personality. And people will hate me for running away from every little thing. It's just like he said. Something's obviously wrong with me. After thinking all that she tells her father that it's fine. Then her father tells her that you don't have to force yourself to make me feel better. Since it really doesn't bother me. After that he hugs her and tells her that I wasn't trying to make you feel better. I was just telling you the truth. So what if you're a coward? Nothing's changed, either before or after the incident. Haru, you are still our daughter, whom we love the most in the world. So you don't have to hide it anymore. This scar is a reminder that you fought valiantly. After that she tells that guy who she is telling her past story that people didn't like that I was a coward. That's why I tried so hard to change myself. But there were people who could understand me, despite all that. Dad told me that there wasn't anything wrong with me. And after that, suddenly something very bad happened. A mass destruction occurred because of the alien apocalypse and her father saw that her mother and brother died because of that. After that she asked her dad what just happened to Mom and Soil. Then she saw that her father had lost his one leg because of that incident. After that she tried to go closer to him but her father stopped her and told her that no, don't come closer. Then she sees her mother's body which was buried under the concrete. After seeing that she gets fully traumatized. Then her father told her that, "Haru, you can escape. I'll stay here with Mom and Soyul." After listening to him she started crying and told her father that, "Don't say that. How am I supposed to leave you behind? You're the only one I have left. I won't run away. If I run away now, I won't ever be able to forgive myself. So I won't ever run away." After which she saw her dad killed by the monsters. Then telling the whole story she says, "Dad once told me that it's okay for me to be a coward. And that there's nothing wrong with me. He was wrong. I ended up abandoning Dad. After telling him that I would stay. And after that again and again." Meanwhile later while he is going outside he turns around and sees Haru hiding in the corner. After that she takes off her jacket and by running faster she comes in front of them. And tell them that, "Now I'm not gonna run away anymore and I'll go with you." Meanwhile later after getting out from the bunker they move very carefully. After that he sees a monster and tells everyone to stop. Meanwhile a few minutes later after reaching the safe place he tells everyone that we can talk now. It's safe here. Then the girl says, "I thought my heart was gonna explode." And the guy with glasses says, "I know, right? I thought we'd get eaten by a monster, for sure. Now that I think about it, how's the map coming along?" After listening to him Haru says, "Oh, the map." Then she sees a paper in his hand and asks him what's with the paper. After which he replies, "We have to make a map." And tells her that it's as important as it is to find food. We will be able to plan ahead if we figure out where the resources are. After listening to him she excitedly replies, "Important. I'll do it, since I know this neighborhood well." Then she looks at the paper and says, "I said I'd do it pretty confidently, but the city's turned into such a wasteland that everything I know is pretty much useless. The roads that used to be super easy to walk on are now way harder because the ground is all different." Meanwhile later while looking at the things that they gathered to take with them. The guy with the glasses says, "This is all we've gathered so far. I feel like we've walked around a lot, but we didn't gather as much as I expected. Most of the food has gone bad, not only because it's summer, but also because the city has been without power for 9 days. We have no choice but to eat the food that will go bad first." After that the girl tells him, "But we should take it to the base first and then think about it." Then he says, "Think about it. We won't be able to eat the food that's already gone bad. And there's no chance that we'll be able to make it here again when there are monsters all over the place. Also we risked our lives to walk all the way here. So don't you think it'd be unfair if we didn't get a reward?" After listening to him she replies, but still I'm against it. I feel bad for the people waiting for us back at the base. On the other side, while eating the food, he says it's good. After listening to him, Haru gets shocked. Then while looking at the food he says it's yummy. The food I had back in the basement was just for nutritional purposes. But the food from the surface is truly different. Just eating it makes me happy. After listening to him she tells him that now that I think about it, we ate that bread together, too. I'm talking about when we first met. I thought you were a complete idiot for not being able to recognize what bread is. After that he gives the packets of food to her and says, here. Now I don't owe you anything, right? Then she asks him, what are you talking about? After listening to her he also asks him what. And remember the time when she told him that you have to pay me back fourfold, though. Okay, you can't forget. After remembering that he thinks for her to forget what she said. No, maybe she had no intention of getting paid back in the first place. I guess she's the type to deal with the losses. After thinking all that he tells her that you're stupid. Then she angrily replies, what? I don't think you're the one, who should be saying that to me. Meanwhile later while walking everyone remembers what he said in the basement before getting to the surface. That remember, the one thing you must keep in mind when you're on the surface is that we must never get discovered by monsters. If you do get discovered by them, you're going to have to fight them. Even if I'm capable of getting rid of them, the noise from the battle would inevitably attract nearby monsters. If that happens, we'd be swarmed by an endless horde of monsters. So you must not ever get caught by them. If you do, split up and run. Increase the chances of at least one of us surviving. After that they see a monster and Haru suddenly starts running, but he stops her and tells them that wait, we weren't caught. It's not reacting at all. Meanwhile looking at the monster the guy wearing glasses gets scared and nervous, from which he drops a can on ground by mistake. After listening to the sound of the can falling down the monster starts moving towards that area where the sound came. Meanwhile looking at this he thinks it reacts to sound. And suddenly stops Haru from screaming so the monster doesn't listen to her. Then while getting ready to attack the monster he thinks things will become uncontrollable. If this fight ends up attracting all the monsters in the vicinity, I have to take care of this. In one strike. After that he takes out that weapon which he got from a man in the basement. Then while taking out the weapon he thinks a weapon capable of targeting their weak spots. After that he suddenly moves towards the monster and kills him in just one strike. Then later at night they take rest, and while sitting and looking at the weapon he remembers his past memories with his dad. In which his dad told him that you must not depend on weapons. You must be able to fend them off with only your bare hands. And that time he replied to his dad that by them, you mean the humans on the surface, right? After which his father told him that that's right. Weapons don't suit people like us. You will soon come to understand. After remembering all that he thinks he said I'd understand, but there's no way I can fight the monsters without a weapon. Dad never talked about monsters when we were in the basement. Maybe he thought I'd never believe him. Since I never believed that the apocalypse was coming either. But I think I get it now. The inexplicable training he put me through, I went through all that in order to survive the monsters. But there is something that I don't understand. Dad definitely said that he had no plans to release me from the basement. But if that was the case, there was no need for him to train me for the possibility of going to the surface. Then was all that a lie? Did he never actually want to send me to the surface? No, I can't believe that was all an act. Now that I think about it, Dad rarely lied. Aside from telling me that Mom died. If Dad never actually thought about letting me up to the surface, then was the training all a part of Dad's thoroughness? The day the apocalypse began, Dad was the one who opened the basement doors all at once. I'm sure that wasn't a part of his original plan. But if I hadn't escaped from the basement I would have died. Having been attacked by the monsters that were targeting it. But why were the monsters targeting the basement? Wait, more importantly, how did you know that the apocalypse was coming? Meanwhile looking at the ball-like structure which came out from the monster the guy wearing glasses says, what in the world is this? I can't even break it. After that he asks his friend wanna touch it too. And gives it to her. After touching it suddenly she throws it away and says it's gross. Then he touches the thing and feels something strange. After which the guy wearing glasses asks him what's wrong. Then he picks up that thing and starts looking at it and suddenly breaks it into pieces. Meanwhile Haru thinks I tried to run away on my own. But I promised myself I wouldn't. I promised that I wouldn't run away anymore. When I go back I'll apologize to her first. Then later while sleeping he sees a dream and thinks, what is this memory? That's right, there was a time when things were like this. A time when Dad was normal. It's been so long that I had almost forgotten. Meanwhile in the dream his father asks him, do you want to read this book? And tells him that this is a book from my hometown. It's a story about a hero. His name is, while he is going to say the name suddenly his dream breaks, and he slowly opens his eyes and sees that Haru is sitting over him. After looking at her he asks Haru what? Then she suddenly puts her hand on his mouth to keep him quiet. And points her finger to the other side to show him something. But what she was thinking is a monster came out to be a rat. After which she calms down and says, what the hell, it was just a rat and here I thought. Then while looking at her he tells Haru that you're kinda heavy, and asks her, so can you get off? After that she stands up and tells him that I'm not heavy. Then later in the morning Haru looks at the city by using the binoculars. After which he tells her that human, I'm planning to have US leave soon. And asks her how's the map coming. After listening to him she replies, it's going great, so don't worry. Also I keep telling you that's not my name. After that the guy wearing glasses asks him, your name, now that I think about it, what did you say your name was? Then he replies, I don't have one. I was never called by a name since I was a kid. After listening to him she asks him, then what should we call you? And tells him that we can't just keep saying, you. Then let's come up with a name for you now. What would you like? Then he nervously asks her, you're going to name me. After which Haru says, how about, stupid? It seems easy enough to remember. After listening to them all he thinks they suddenly asked me to come up with a name. I've never thought about it before. Then he gets the glimpses of something and tells them blue. After listening to him Haru says that's a weird name. And asks him, is there some meaning behind it? Then he replies, not really. It was just a name I saw in a book I read when I was little. After listening to him that girl says, then why don't we take this chance to introduce ourselves? I don't think we ever did it properly. And tells everyone that my name is Yujin. Then the guy wearing glasses tells everyone that I'm Jihan. You can just call me Yun. And she tells everyone that my name's Haru. Though I'm sure a certain idiot won't remember it again. Then he again gets the glimpses of his past while he was writing, after which he tells everyone that my name is Blue. It's nice to meet you. After listening to him they also replies, it's nice to meet you too, Blue. Then he thinks I suddenly remembered the dreams I had in the basement. If I were to ever go to the surface, I wanted to exchange greetings with other people, and I always wanted to have a conversation with them, because I could possibly become friends with them. After that Yun tells him that we're friends. Then while going to punch his hand as a sign of friendship he suddenly gets the glimpses of his past again, in which people died because of the apocalypse. After which Blue stops and replies no to him and turns around. Then while walking he thinks, if it weren't for the apocalypse I could have been friends with them. But finding mom comes first. It's not the time to make my dreams come true right now. After that they listen to someone scream, and sees a guy who is struggling to survive from a monster. Then while looking at Yujin trying to do something he asks her to wait. What are you thinking? Then she replies, but we should go help him. He might die if we don't go now. After listening to her he replies no. The fact that we heard him means that other monsters are on their way here. Then she replies, but we can just save him and hide before that happens. After which he asks her, don't you remember what I told you before we left? And tells her, you promised to do as I said, in exchange for coming with me to the surface. After that she jumps and goes to help that man from the monster. Then she stabs the sharp log into the monster's body and throws it back. After which he asks her, there are other people. Then she replies, don't worry. We'll take you someplace safe. After that the same monster tries to attack Yujin and it almost gets close to her, but suddenly Blue protects her by killing the monster in one strike. Then he tells her that Yujin, don't you LKNOW. What you just did has put all of US in danger.
After that, the guy who they rescued from the monsters tells them that my condition, my leg seems to be broken. So I think one of you has to help me. After listening to him, Blue thinks, damn it, I knew this would happen. Then he notices something and thinks the monsters must have come from hearing the sound. After which he tells that guy, no, we can't help you anymore. We put ourselves in enough danger by saving you from that monster. If you really want to help that human out, I don't care, but in that case, don't follow us anymore. I told you. You promised to do as I said in exchange for coming with me to the surface. After which Ji-hyun tells Yujin that Blue is right. We don't have the time to be worried about others right now. Please, there are people waiting for us at the base. After listening to him carefully, Yujin tells them, fine, I'll listen to you. Meanwhile, when they are leaving suddenly, that guy starts shouting and says from behind, with whose permission? How dare you leave me? Don't kid me. I'll die if you leave now. Yeah, this is murder. After which Blue thinks he's too loud and tells him that quiet, human. But that guy doesn't stop and attracts the monsters near them. After that, Haru asks Blue, what do we do now? They're coming in from all directions. Then Blue tells her that, we haven't seen the worst yet. We should escape as quickly as we can since we haven't been caught yet. We confirm that there weren't monsters in the direction we came from, so as long as we go back the way we came. After that, they suddenly see that the guy is holding a cigarette and lighter in his hands. And from this, everyone gets afraid. Then Blue asks him, what are you doing? Then he points his finger and shows the smoking area board, after which Ji-hyun tells him to wait and says, that's not what we're talking about right now. I don't think you're aware of this, but if you light a fire, the monsters smorward. Then the guy replies, I know. I'm aware that the monsters are drawn to fire. I accidentally destroyed the place I was hiding in. After listening to him, Ji-hyun asks them, why are you doing this? Then suddenly he lightens up the lighter, and all the monster attracts and comes there. After which he tells them that, don't you think I'm allowed at least one cigarette before I die? Then Blue tells them to run. After which he takes outside his weapons. And Ji-hyun and Yujin suddenly stop running when they see Haru standing still. On the other hand, Blue starts fighting with monsters. After looking at him, Haru asks him, why aren't you running away? But he doesn't reply to her because he is focused on dodging and fighting with monsters. On the other hand, he starts killing the monsters by hitting the sharp weapon on the monster's weak point. After that, he suddenly looks back and sees them standing still. Then he asks them, why aren't you moving? I told you to run. Then Ji-hyun replies, no, and asks him, then what about you? You said you'd run too. Why aren't you running? After which he thinks, why Ami not running? That's because I thought you guys would die if I ran. Then Ji-hyun and Yujin also start fighting with the monsters. After looking at them, Blue again tells them that run away, I'm telling you. Then Ji-hyun replies, it's okay. There are less monsters than before. If this is all we have to fight, then we might be able to return to the base together. After that, a new species of monsters comes from behind a monster, which looks like a queen of the monster. Then looking at the new type of monster, Blue gets shocked. After which he asks him, what's wrong? Then he sees that all the monsters have bowed down in front of the new monster. After which Blue again tells them to run, but suddenly the new monster comes in front of him by holding a human heart in her hands. Then Blue looks at Ji-hyun and sees that his heart is taken out by that monster. After which Ji-hyun dies on the spot, and by looking at this, everyone gets shocked. Then Blue tries to hit her with his weapon, but the strange type of monster stops it just by using one finger, and even breaks the weapon into pieces. After which she hits him just by using her one finger, and the force is so powerful that Blue falls back far away from her. After which he also notices that even his ribcage is broken. Then the monster crushes Ji-hyun's heart in her fist. After which she orders the other monsters to attack them by pointing her finger towards them. Then after looking at the monsters coming towards them, Blue tells his friends to run. Meanwhile, standing behind him, Haru thinks, my heart feels like it's about to explode, but I can't run away. If I run now, then I'll end up abandoning those precious to me again. After thinking all that, she puts her bag down and steps forward towards Blue to save him. But suddenly, Yujin comes in front of Blue and gets stabbed by a monster, which makes both Haru and Blue shocked. After that, Yujin tells them that, I'm sorry, it's all my fault. I put everyone in danger, so please at least you guys should live. After saying all that, she runs on other direction to make the monsters chase her. She sacrifices her life, by which Haru and Blue get the time to save themselves. On the other hand, the strange monster absorbs the life of the weak monsters which weren't able to defeat Blue. After looking at this, Blue gets shocked, because it's the moment where he is fully afraid and couldn't understand what he should do to save his friend's life. Then, he suddenly stands up on his feet and again tells Haru that run, this is your last chance. After listening to him, she asks him, what are you talking about? Then what about you? Are you out of your mind? And also tells him that you were like this earlier too. You were the one who planned to run away. Then he replies, you're right. That was the right call. After which she again asks him, then why? Then he replies, it was fun. Eating with you guys, introducing ourselves, whenever we found ourselves understanding each other even more. It made me think about how truly enjoyable the things I had once dreamed about in the basement were. But it's all over if we die. If we die, we can no longer talk to each other. We can no longer call each other by our names, and we can no longer be friends. One time, one of the humans at the base asked me if I'd ever been sad because I lost someone precious to me. But I think I might know now, so please run away. I don't want to see you guys die anymore. After looking at Blue that he is crying, Haru thinks it's the same as last time. She remembers the time when her father told her the same thing. After remembering that moment, she thinks, why are they saying the same thing? Then she tells Blue that, no, I've made up my mind. I won't run away on my own anymore. I don't want to remember that moment. The moment I abandoned my dad. I'm scared to remember how he looked at me. Dad understood me. He told me that it's okay that I'm a coward and that it wasn't my fault. But I just abandoned my dad. I'm scared. What if he hated me in his last moments? After that, Blue tells her that to think you're not going to run away on your own. I knew it. You're the type to take your losses. It's a relief. Even in his last moments, Dad loved me. Promise me that you won't cry the next time you think you're a coward. Then listening to him, she replies, okay, and both of them join their fingers to make a promise. And this moment makes Haru feel like she is talking to her dad. After that, she says, didn't I tell you? But it's all over if we die. And I don't want to see you guys die anymore. Don't look down on me. Who's gonna die? I will live no matter what. Then it won't be all over. We'll be able to share even more conversations if we live, and call each other by our names, and we can become friends. After looking at her that she is lighting up the lighter, Blue asks her, what are you doing? Then she tells him that so don't give up. We'll live no matter what. I always ran away for my own sake, but from this moment on, I'll run for the sake of others. Well then, I'll see you at the base, Blue. After that, monsters get attracted to the fire and start running towards her to kill her, and she also runs as much as possible with her burning shoes. Meanwhile, running, she dodges the monster attacks on her by performing acrobatic moves, and takes the monster as far as possible from Blue to give him time to survive. Meanwhile, on the other hand, Blue stops the strange monster and asks her, where do you think you're going? And also tells her that your opponent is me. After that, while looking at the monster, he thinks, it's strong. It doesn't compare to any of the monsters I've fought until now. I can see them. This thing's seeds, and I can feel it. The life force overflowing within it. I don't know. I have no idea how to defeat this thing. After thinking all that, he tries to pick the sharp weapon, but the monster kicks him. He defends himself, but the force of the kick is so powerful that he goes back. After which he thinks, this bastard. It's aiming for my weapon. I think it's aware that my weapon is dangerous. Damn it. Without my weapon, I have no way of aiming for its weak spot. Then suddenly he remembers his father's words when he told him that he must not depend on weapons, because weapons don't suit people like us. You will soon come to understand what I'm talking about. After listening, he also asked his father that time, what do you mean? What am I supposed to understand? That time his father smiled and replied, even without such weapons, we are still the strongest. After remembering all that about what his father told him, Blue thinks, now that I think about it, Dad never used a weapon, and this stance is the strongest among any other human stance. Then he remembers, once his father taught him that this stance is simply to set you up. Every organism carries a life force. The humans on the surface, beasts, plants, even me and you, use this power. Your hand is the path through which your life force flows. Focus on the ends of your fingers and pull your life force there, and manipulate that power. That time Blue felt like it's a useless lesson and even argued with his dad that it's nonsense and he was lying. But that time his father told him, you might not know this now, but there might come a time when you will be able to use it. When you finally feel your life force, that power will become yours. After remembering all those lessons taught by his dad, he tries to perform that stance. Meanwhile, performing it, he thinks, "What's this? It's so hot. My body feels like it's on fire." After thinking that, he remembers when he asked his father that what changes if I use it. Then that time his father replied to him, "You'll be able to move a tiny, very tiny bit more like me." After that, the monster tries to attack him from behind, but he suddenly turns back with hyper-raging mode. What will happen next? To find out, do like, share, subscribe, and comment down if you want part 2 as soon as possible. Thanks for watching. Sayonara.